Hey everyone, I hope you're well. This is the story about what if Naruto went to Sand Village and was raised by Tsunade. Before we start, please subscribe to the channel and like the video as well. I have created a playlist of this what if and other what ifs, make sure to check them as well. So without any further ado, let's start the what if. Back at the training grounds, it took them a minute to realize what actually happened, but they recovered from their stupor and Mizuki announced, winner. Naruto, Senju. Naruto offered a hand to the fallen Sasuke, but the duck-butt-haired kid just shoved his hand away, shut it dobe. I can stand on my own. And stood up. Is that how but hurt pride sounds like? Came the shout of Kiba, to which Sasuke just snorted, consider it your lucky day dobe. I'll beat you next time. Sasuke said and put his hands in pockets and went back to his position. Sure team. Naruto replied and followed the emo kid to his own position. After the boys returned to their place, Mizuki was the first to speak. Sakura and Tanu, please step forward. He called the pink-haired girl and a civilian girl who was also a Sasuke fangirl to have their duel begin. Mizuki announced when the girls entered the ring, I am gonna show who is the strongest to Sasuke-kun by defeating you, Pinky. The civilian girl Tanu announced as she got into a basic stance. No way. Sasuke-kun is mine. Sakura exclaimed and ran straight at Tanu like a blind bull, surprising Tanu and headbutt her in the gut, but she lost her own balance too and both the fangirls went out of the circle and touched the ground in a painful way at the same time. Double knockout. Iruka sighed. Team. Naruto whispered to his duck-butt-haired friend as he saw Sasuke's eye twitching in irritation at the worst display put up by his so-called fangirls and asked, is one of those girls gonna be your possible future wife? No way, the duck-butt-haired kid shouted, dumping all his Uchiha dignity and pride in the mud at the guess made by the blonde kid. Well, sucks to be you then. 'Cause they don't seem to be backing down. The blonde said, referring to the fangirls of Sasuke, not at all surprised by the outburst of the Uchiha kid. Hokage Tower. Girls like those two are the ones that bring a bad name to Kunoichi all over the world. Tsunade muttered out loud with a tick mark on her forehead at seeing the worst display put on by the so-called Uchiha kids fangirls. How are they even in the Ninja Academy? During my time, the Ninja Academy was so strict that it almost didn't even let Might Guy to enter the academy, who now is a world-known jonin. Then how are those girls qualified to enter the academy? Shizune thought out loud with genuine surprise written all over her face. Hiruzen just sighed at the worst fight and replied, after Minato's death when I reclaimed the position, so many things happened that needed my attention, like the Hyuga incident. So, I had to hand over the other responsibilities like the Ninja Academy to the Civilian Council, while me and the Shinobi Council were busy dealing with the more threatening matters. He took a small pause to relax back in his chair and continued with regret, I guess I shouldn't have let the Civilian Council to handle the Ninja Academy. You shouldn't have let them take any responsibility regarding Shinobi matters in the first place. Now they have opened the doors for children who are not fit for Shinobi duty and don't know the reality and horrors of being a Shinobi. Jiraiya said with a shake of his head. Handing over Shinobi matters to Civilian Council gives them a chance to undermine your authority. Tsunade said in disappointment, there are many things that I should have done in the past which I regret now. Hiruzen muttered out loud, remembering that he should have been the one to sacrifice for the village instead of Minato and Kushina. He then took a deep breath and thought to himself, and there are many other things that I should do now, before it's too late, reminding himself to sort out the Uchiha issue with the help of Itachi Uchiha and Shisui Uchiha. But girls like these should understand what it means to be a Kunoichi first. Tsunade thought out loud, making a ray of hope to be ignited in Hiruzen. I can give you a chance to do that. Hiruzen said, and when he saw Tsunade's questioning look, he continued again. I'll explain later. To which Tsunade just nodded. Back at the training grounds, Iruka helped both girls to stand up and told them to go back to their standing positions. Mizuki checked the register for the names of the last two academy students, Hinata Hyuga and Ino Yamanaka. Please step inside the ring. Hokage Tower. Ino. Isn't that the same girl that Naruto-kun was talking about last night? Tsunade thought with narrowed eyes to see the girl who caught her son's attention. Shizune, who caught the look on her master's face as soon as the name Ino was mentioned, can't help but think with a small smile, you can't blame a mother for being protective over her child, right? Back at the training grounds. As soon as the names were called, Evie turned her head so fast to look at the girls that she could have suffered a whiplash. All those present there suddenly felt a tense atmosphere. Both girls were abnormally silent, which was odd even for Shikamaru and Choji. As far as both Shikamaru and Choji know, Ino is certainly not a silent person, as she is always talkative. Go Ino-chan. Go Hinata-chan. Show them what you both have got. Naruto started cheering for both, not really sensing the tenseness between the two girls. Evie just glanced at Naruto and then at the girls, and just shook her head at the obvious dumbness of the blonde boy. Both girls stepped into the ring without even making eye contact with each other and stood facing each other. As soon as they made eye contact, the tension in the air became even thicker. Hinata went into her gentle fist stance, while Ino got ready in a basic academy stance. Something is definitely wrong between these two girls. Iruka couldn't stop himself from thinking. Begin. Mizuki announced and jumped back 2 feet to give them enough room. Neither Hinata nor Ino made any move for the next few seconds and kept on trying to intimidate each other. Hokage Tower. Oh no. Thought Shizune as she understood the look the girls were having on their faces, as she is not dumb like her brother. Hokage-sama. You need to stop this duel. She almost shouted, which made both Jiraiya and Hiruzen to get surprised. Ha, was the same intelligent reply from both the males present in the room. Yes, sensei. This duel needs to be stopped, before it can escalate. Tsunade said, who is also not dumb like her son. They will hurt each other seriously, if my guess is right. Tsunade pointed out the exact same thing that Shizune wanted to say. What? Both Jiraiya and Hiruzen asked at the same time with dumbfounded looks. Back at the training grounds. Almost a minute had passed since they started intimidating each other, but still none of them tried to make the first move. Do you like Naruto-kun? Hinata asked in a low voice that only Ino could hear, and she asked without stuttering this time. Even though the tone was low, Ino can identify the hostility in the voice coming from the Hyuga heiress. Ino also replied in a low tone so that only Hinata could hear her words, maybe or maybe not. But I guess in a way I do like him as a friend, for now. Ino muttered the last words to herself so that even Hinata can't hear. Evie, with her sensitive hearing, heard what the girls were talking about and poked Naruto with her tail to get his attention. Naruto turned his gaze away from Ino and Hinata to Evie. What? The blonde boy asked his companion, still being oblivious to the actual situation between the two girls. Evie just slapped her front leg on her forehead in resignation and sat down again on her hind legs, deciding to just see what's gonna happen next. Naruto just tilted his head in confusion at his companion's weird behavior, but he turned his head immediately back to the ring when he heard. Gentle fist / mind transfer jutsu was all Naruto heard as he just turned his head and saw both Hinata and Ino about to hit each other with their techniques, and he also saw both Iruka and Mizuki rushing in to stop the girls from using the techniques, as this was a pure taijutsu test only. It all happened so fast that the others were not able to completely observe what's going on. But for Naruto's eyes it was crystal clear. His eyes, mind and body are well trained to keep up with the extensive speeds thanks to his mom, who trained him in physical strength, stamina and speed. Before Iruka and Mizuki could make it to stop the girls, the techniques were fired, and both girls were hit by each other's techniques. Ino's mind transfer technique hit Hinata, just as Hinata's right palm connected with the left cheek of Ino. Because Ino's body was slagging a little due to her mind being absent from the body, the force behind Hinata's slap literally threw her out of the ring. While Ino's body is still in midair, Ino, who is now in the mind of Hinata, forced the Hyuga heiress's body to dive into the ground outside the ring with as much force as Hinata's body can produce with the dive. Both girls hit the ground at the same time, with Ino's back and Hinata's face hitting the ground rather harshly. There was absolute silence in the training grounds for a few seconds, which was broken when Ino returned to her own body and sat up, nursing her back with a painful expression, and started rubbing her cheek gently, which is already bruising due to the gentle fist slap. Hinata also sat up, nursing her bruising forehead with a painful expression, due to the dive Ino forced her body to make. Hokage Tower. Lady Tsunade. Shizune called her master with a perplexed expression on her face. Yes, replied Tsunade, who had a brilliant poker face which didn't allow neither Hiruzen nor Jiraiya to know what she has on her mind. Are you thinking the same thing that I'm thinking, Lady Tsunade? Shizune asked her master. What are you thinking? Hiruzen questioned. Yes, Shizune. Tsunade replied to her student, completely ignoring Hiruzen's question. What's going on? Jiraiya asked as he is also not getting what's going on. So, Lady Tsunade, are those two girls after N? Shizune was not able to finish her sentence as Tsunade interrupted her by saying, let's go get my son. His academy classes for today are over. Shizune could identify the motherly protective tone in Tsunade's voice, which made her smile genuinely at her protectiveness of Naruto. With that, Tsunade left the room and Shizune was also about to step out of the room, but she was stopped when, can someone tell us what's going on here? Hiruzen almost shouted with a confused expression along with Jiraiya, who had a puzzled expression on his face at not knowing what's going on. Shizune just shook her head at the stupidity of both males in the room. Back at the training grounds, why did they use harmful techniques to hurt each other in a hand-to-hand combat test? Naruto asked no one in particular with a confused expression on his face. Evie, who was right next to him, heard his words, and she also shook her head at the stupidity of her blonde companion. Then both the ladies, Shizune and Evie from their respective places thought at the exact same time, men will be men. After the performance of both the Hyuga heiress and Yamanaka heiress left the audience in shock at the ruthlessness they showed for each other, the skill assessment session was concluded. Shortly as the session concluded, Tsunade and Shizune appeared at the Ninja Academy to take Naruto back home. When they were about to exit the academy training grounds, Tsunade just took a brief glance over her shoulder towards the two girls. One of them had a bruising cheek while the other had a bruising forehead, but still both girls didn't even care to look at each other and kept walking forward towards their own respective homes. If those two can show the same dedication to become serious kunoichis, then the future generation will have two tough kunoichi to look up to. Were the thoughts of Tsunade as she made a note in her mind to check the progress of Hyuga heiress and Yamanaka heiress at a later point of time. Meanwhile, Shizune's mind was busy in her own thoughts. She took a side glance at Naruto and thought maybe my little brother can get a successful date soon, unlike me. As Naruto left with his family, everybody else also started their own dash towards their homes. Taunton and Evie just ran off to their home, leaving Tsunade, Shizune and Naruto behind, as these three have decided to simply enjoy the walk back to their home. When Naruto, Tsunade and Shizune were on their way back to home, they saw the entrance for the Shinobi burial grounds on the left side of the path. Naruto felt the familiar chakra signature of Kakashi in the burial grounds and felt the regret and sorrow the Jonin was feeling. Naruto stopped walking beside his mother and turned left side and entered the burial grounds. Tsunade just rose an eyebrow and followed her son along with Shizune. The blonde boy stood near a tree which was 50 feet away from where Kakashi was standing. Eventually his mother and sister also joined him in observing the Jonin. All the shinobi who fell in battlefield were given a respectful final resting place, a proper gravestone, and also their names were respectfully carved on the Leaf Village's memorial stone. But Kakashi was standing before a grave which was not even given a proper gravestone, and it was away from all the shinobi graves. The grave that Kakashi kept on staring with regret just has a normal boulder to mark the grave. Naruto kept on watching Kakashi until the Jonin released a sigh and left the burial grounds without even knowing that he was being observed by the Senju family. After Kakashi left, Naruto approached the grave that Kakashi kept on staring at and kneeled in front of it. He tried to read the name etched on the boulder. Tsukumo Hatake. Naruto read the name aloud. Tsukumo Hatake, the White Fang of the Leaf Village. Shizune answered her brother's unasked question, and when she saw Naruto turn to look at her with a questioning gaze, she continued again. It was said that even the three legendary Sannin paled in comparison to the White Fang of the Leaf. Wow! He is really that badass? Naruto asked his mom with excitement to know more about this person. Tsunade just nodded, confirming what Naruto said. He was the reason why Sand Village still fears to even think of attacking the Leaf Village. Whoa! He must be really cool. Naruto stopped mid-sentence when something clicked in his mind, and he turned his head back to look over his shoulder at all the other shinobi gravestones on one side, and then tuned back to look at Tsukumo's grave to see it's all alone and without a proper gravestone. Naruto felt like someone intentionally separated Tsukumo from being buried along with other fallen shinobis. Naruto kept on staring at the name Tsukumo Hatake, and then started saying without looking back, "If he is really such a great shinobi like you say." He then took a pause to stand up and turn around to face his mother. Then why is there no proper respect given to his final resting place, which was supposed to be given to all other fallen shinobis? Naruto asked, referring to the absence of a proper gravestone and Tsukumo Hatake's grave being alone and separated from the rest of the shinobi graves. Tsunade released a regretful sigh thinking about all the things that happened back then and decided to reveal the harsh truth to her son. Tsukumo Hatake, the White Fang of the Leaf Village, was given a dangerous top-secret mission to lead, deep behind the enemy lines. The Hokage cabin. Can we really trust those two Uchihas? The War Hawk Danzo questioned his longtime rival Hiruzen suspiciously. Third Hokage Hiruzen and his three advisors Koharu, Hamura and Danzo were present in the Hokage cabin, which was still in effect of the silencing seal that will make sure that no outside noise has a chance to enter inside the cabin and no inside noise has a chance to get out of the cabin. Uchihas can never be trusted, Hamura said, adjusting his glasses. Our sensei was always right for not believing in the Uchihas. Koharu said, shaking her head in disappointment. Our sensei may be right about not trusting in some Uchihas, but he also believed that not all of them are bad. Tobirama sensei himself had put his complete trust in an Uchiha and made him one of his personal team members. I don't think you three have forgotten about Kagami, have you? Hiruzen questioned, exhaling some smoke from his pipe. Kagami was our dear friend, and he was a true leaf shinobi. Surprisingly, it was Danzo who said it. Koharu and Hamura also nodded at the statement given by Danzo. All four of them still remember the fond memories of their old teammate, who was the only Uchiha ever to be acknowledged by the second Hokage, Tobirama Senju himself. Hiruzen then released a sigh and said, that's why I intend to take this leap of faith and trust in these two Uchihas to sort out this Uchiha problem before it gets out of hand. He took a pause to put down his smoking pipe on the table and continued again, I believe that I sense the same thing in those two Uchihas that Tobirama sensei also sensed in our friend Kagami. And that is? Hamura questioned. Hiruzen turned around in his chair to watch the Hokage monument through the window in the room, and a genuine smile found its way on his lips. The will of fire, Hiruzen said, answering Hamura's question. Koharu and Hamura understood his reasoning and nodded their heads, agreeing to Hiruzen's idea of handling the Uchiha problem. But when Hiruzen was still looking at the Hokage stone heads, he suddenly noticed a flock of predator birds like golden eagles, bald eagles, hawks, falcons, harpies, eagles, and other species of large predator birds flying erratically in the sky over a certain place through the glass window in the room. Also, when he inched closer to the window and looked down, he found that the trees surrounding the village seemed like they were being bended by an unknown force of nature. What's happening? Koharu questioned with surprise as she also noticed the strange phenomenon. It was then that Hiruzen decided that it was best to cancel the silencing seal to know what's happening in the village. But as soon as the silencing seal was removed, all of them heard the wind howling in an ominous way. It was like the wind god himself is very angry at something. That place is the shinobi burial ground of the Leaf Village, Hamura said, identifying the place from where this strange phenomenon is originating. A few moments ago. Shinobi burial grounds. Naruto just found out the truth about what happened to the White Fang of the Leaf, and his rage started boiling inside him. He unknowingly started channeling his rage, and his chakra started to respond, releasing waves upon waves of potent killing intent. Shizune was a little bit nervous at what her little brother will do now after learning what the village did to Tsukumo, whereas Tsunade just seemed unfazed as she kept on looking at her son. It seemed like Mother Nature also shared his rage, as almost all the large predator birds started screeching and flying over the burial grounds demanding justice. And the wind also picked up pace and howled in an ominous way and started to flow with tremendous force, bending everything in its path, originating from the shinobi burial ground. Across all other parts of the Leaf Village, each and every citizen in the Leaf Village noticed the strange phenomenon, and soon they were forced to brace themselves as the wind hit them on full force. Many shinobi noticed it and immediately approached the Hokage Tower to report, but since Hiruzen was involved in a secret meeting with silencing seal in effect, they could not report this phenomenon to their leader. At present, Hokage cabin. What kind of a disaster is this? Koharu uttered as she heard the terrifying wind and the bird screeches as soon as the silencing seal was removed. Soon a Chunin barged into the cabin and kneeled, "Pardon Hokage-sama." The Chunin apologized for his sudden intrusion. "No need of an apology. But report what's going on." Hiruzen said authoritatively. "A sudden wind started to originate from the shinobi burial grounds and we tried to find out why. But we cannot approach the burial grounds as the sheer force of the wind gets too much as we try to get close to the place." "I see." Hiruzen muttered, thinking about what to do to find out the reason for the strange phenomenon. But none of them noticed the disappearance of Danzo among them. Back at the shinobi burial grounds, it seemed that the terrifying wind that shared the rage of Naruto doesn't affect his mother or his sister, as they were unfazed by the wind apart from their hair flowing in the wind lightly. Seeing the lack of surprise or shock on the faces of both Tsunade and Shizune, it is now crystal clear that this is not the first time they are witnessing something like this. Tsunade calmly kneeled in front of her son, unfazed by the chakra he was emitting or his killing intent, because it was not directed at her. "Don't let your anger to control you." Even though Tsunade said lowly, Naruto heard it loud and clear. He seemed to somewhat calm down, but the wind is still howling ominously, and the birds are still screeching angrily, responding to his anger. "But Mom, what was done to him was wrong," Naruto said with sadness and slight anger. "Yes. But you can't do anything about it as long as your rage takes control over you," Tsunade chided her son. That seemed to calm him as the wind settled and the birds started calming down too and returned to their nests. "Mom," Naruto said after he completely calmed down. Let's go and meet Grandpa Hokage. I have something to talk to him," Naruto said, turned towards the direction that leads to the Hokage Tower and started walking. Knowing what her son is gonna do now, she just laughed to herself and said, "Alright." She then followed her son along with Shizune, who is also smiling cause her brother is calmed down now. Hokage cabin. While Hiruzen was still thinking about the reason for the strange phenomenon, the wind and the birds suddenly settled down. He seemed genuinely curious now, but another Chunin barged into the room and kneeled. "Hokage-sama, the Senju family is here to see you," reported the Chunin. That seemed like a genuine surprise for Hiruzen, Koharu and Hamura, as they didn't expect them to be here when there is a situation like this. "Send them in," the aged Hokage said. Both Chunins present in the room left, leaving the Hokage alone with Koharu and Hamura. Soon the door to the Hokage cabin was ripped off from its walls as Naruto pushed it, and he then let the door to fall on the adjacent wall. "Lady Tsunade, what's the meaning of this? This is disrespectful and can be considered an attack on the..." Hamura started saying, but was interrupted by the slug Sannin, who said, "My son here has something to talk to you too and the Hokage." She then turned to her son, who nodded without even looking at her, so she continued again, "And after the discussion, whatever happens will decide whether the Senju clan will be a Leaf Village clan or not." That statement made the Hokage and the elders to get shocked at the imminent warning hidden in it. The aged Hokage was the first to recover from his shock, and he immediately pointed to the chairs in front of his table and said, "Okay Tsunade, have a seat and let's talk." Tsunade and Shizune took the seats, but Naruto opted to stand instead. Tsunade got comfortable in her seat and gestured her son to carry on. "Hokage-sama, I want to know what is the will of fire that every Leaf Shinobi is so proud about?" Naruto questioned. Hiruzen was initially surprised when Naruto called him Hokage-sama instead of the regular old man or grandpa, and thought the discussion would be over some really nasty thing. But when Naruto said it was about the will of fire, a smile made its way on his lips, and he sat down in his chair and gestured his old teammates to do the same. "Naruto-kun, the will of fire is something that every Leaf Shinobi has to protect their comrades, their loved ones and their next generations," Hiruzen said with pride. "So those who protect their comrades, their loved ones, and their next generations are those with the will of fire, and they will be remembered forever, right?" Naruto asked with absolute calmness. To Hiruzen, Naruto's calmness felt like the calm before the storm. But he answered anyway, yes Naruto-kun. Then why can't I see the name Tsukumo Hatake, the white fang of the Leaf Village on the Leaf's memorial stone? The lack of anger in Naruto's voice made the question even more unnerving. The room was filled with pin-drop silence at the question. Eventually Koharu was the one who broke the silence by saying, he was given a top-secret mission which he abandoned. She couldn't complete her sentence as Naruto interrupted her by saying, to save his comrades, his loved ones, and his next generations. There was no answer from Hiruzen or the two elders to that statement. He chose to save his comrades, his loved ones and his next generations by abandoning the mission. He rescued each and every one of them stuck in that life and death situation. Naruto took a pause to calm his rage that started to raise again and continued, instead of giving him the proper respect for his efforts, the entire village started blaming him, totally forgetting about this will of fire that the Leaf Village boasts about, and even those who were saved by him started to scorn him. So basically, a person who cannot even be defeated by the three legendary Sannin themselves was eventually defeated by his own comrades, his own loved ones, and his own village. The tension in the room's atmosphere became too much as everyone in the room knew whatever Naruto was saying was actually the harsh truth. So, I ask again. I want to know what is the will of fire that every Leaf Shinobi is so proud about. Naruto's question cut through the silence in the room like how a hot knife cuts through the butter. Naruto-san. You need to understand that a mission for the Leaf Village is top prio. Hamura started saying but was interrupted by Tsunade who said, a village is not a place. A village is its people. Save its people, you save the village, and if I'm not wrong that's what Tsukumo Hatake did. Hamura had no answer for that statement. Why you people preach the younger generations about this will of fire that you yourself can't accept? Why boast about the will of fire and then extinguish that fire by pouring salt water on it? With each and every word that Naruto kept on saying, his rage slowly started to build inside him, which triggered the sky predators once again as they are now flying on top of the Hokage tower with loud and angry screeches demanding answers, causing the shinobi to be on high alert. After a few very silent and tense moments later, Hiruzen just released a resigned sigh and said, I know what you're trying to say Naruto-kun, but I don't have the power to determine everything. You're the Hokage. And if the Leaf Village's Hokage cannot properly respect a fallen hero, then I don't want to be a part of this village. You can't do that. Koharu shouted, standing up, throwing all her dignity out the window. Mom. Yes, Naruto-kun. If Tsukumo Hatake was not given the proper respect he deserves within the next 7 days, can I quit the Ninja Academy, and can we go back to Wave? That's not possible. Koharu shouted again. Yes, you can quit any time and we can return to Wave Naruto-kun. Tsunade replied, completely ignoring the outburst of Koharu. Naruto-kun, wait. A Hokage does not have the author. Hokage started to say but was interrupted by Tsunade who said, then who does? The Fire Daimyo. I was about to say that the civilian council must agree to it first. Hiruzen thought but didn't say out loud. As if she knew what was on her master's mind, Shizune took out a small and empty scroll from her sleeves and handed it to Tsunade, who started to write something in the scroll. What are you doing, Lady Tsunade? Hamura asked, adjusting his glasses. But Tsunade ignored him and continued to write. After a few moments, Tsunade finally finished writing and took out the Senju clan seal and stamped the scroll with it. When Tsunade still didn't answer, Lady Tsunade, Hamura asked again. A message to the Fire Daimyo. She finally replied, which left the three others in the room apart from the Senju family to be shocked. Depending on his reply, the Senju clan will decide whether to be a part of the Leaf Village or to leave it. She then turned to her son and said, Naruto-kun. This scroll needs to be delivered to the Fire Daimyo by this evening. That's all Naruto needed to hear as he replied, I'm on it, Mom. He approached the window and opened it. He then started whistling lightly and soon a peregrine falcon came through the window and landed gently on his extended forearm. Isn't that the fastest bird on the planet? Koharu asked, dumbfounded. It is. Hiruzen and Hamura both replied at the same time, wide-eyed. Buddy, can you deliver this to the Fire Daimyo in the Fire Nation's capital city? Naruto asked the bird. The falcon gently opened its wings and made some light screeching noises. Thank you. Naruto said and attached the scroll to the bird's legs and let it go. The bird took flight and gone through the window in the direction of capital city of the Fire Nation. He can talk to birds, was the thought running through the heads of both Koharu and Hamura. Tsunade stood up once the falcon is gone and said, "The message will reach the Fire Daimyo by this evening. The Senju clan will wait for his reply." With that, the three Senju family members left the Hokage cabin, leaving behind the three shell-shocked and aged people. As soon as the Senju family left the Hokage tower, the bird still screeching and flying over the Hokage tower had also calmed down and returned. The Uchiha clan mess was not even sorted yet, and now we have to worry about this Senju clan issue too. Koharu almost shouted. No matter what the era, Senju and Uchiha will always bring issues. Hamura stated, rubbing his temples. Despite the situation, Hiruzen can't help but laugh at how his old teammates just pointed out the funniest truth about the Senju and Uchiha causing issues always. Koharu and Hamura looked at Hiruzen like he grew a second head when he started to laugh slightly. 3 days later. The Leaf Village. Word had already spread throughout the village about how the Senju clan stood up for the respect that was denied for Tsukumo Hatake, and all those shinobi who valued what Tsukumo did have started to nod their heads in respect to the Senju family whenever they crossed paths with any member of the Senju family. Danzo was getting nervous day by day as he heard that a message from the Senju clan head had been sent out for the Fire Daimyo, but he buried that deep inside his poker face very well. A day after the fastest bird on the planet took flight towards the capital city, Hiruzen received a word from the capital city that one of the 12 guardian ninjas will be coming after 2 days to make security arrangements for the Fire Daimyo's stay in the village, as he is all set to visit the Leaf Village to overview the issue of Tsukumo Hatake and the Senju clan. Today is the day when one of the 12 guardian ninjas was supposed to arrive. Hokage cabin. You sure have become a man behind the desk, old man. Hearing the familiar voice, Hiruzen lifted his head to see his son Asuma standing before him. He let a genuine smile to grace his face and asked, "So you are the guardian ninja that is supposed to make arrangements for the stay of Daimyo here?" "Yes, I am," Asuma said and fished out a cigarette from his pocket and started smoking. "I didn't expect that the Daimyo himself would visit to solve the issue though." Hiruzen muttered out loud as he picked up a note and started writing something on it. "Well, that's because he is furious." That made Hiruzen to pause in his writing as he looked at his son and asked, "Furious? Why?" Asuma took a long drag from his cigarette and exhaled some smoke and then answered, "It's not my place to say. You'll know when he arrives." That made Hiruzen to raise an eyebrow, but nevertheless he finished writing in the note and handed it his son and said, "It has the hotel details where the daimyo will stay. You can proceed with the security arrangements as you were instructed by the 12 guardian ninjas." Asuma took the note and turned around to walk away, but before exiting he looked over his shoulder and said, "Later, old man." And then he left, which caused the Hokage to smile and then go back to his paperwork. 2 days after the arrival of one of the 12 guardian ninjas. The Leaf Village gates. The aged third Hokage was waiting at the village gates to receive the Fire Daimyo, cause today is the day of his arrival. Soon he spotted a royal horse-drawn carriage being pulled by 2 pure white horses. The carriage was surrounded by nearly 50 samurai, and the remaining 11 of the 12 guardian ninjas were following the carriage with extreme caution from the treetops. The carriage then stopped beside Hiruzen and the Fire Daimyo stepped out of the vehicle. The Fire Daimyo has small, circular eyes and dark pupils. He was also wearing the standard daimyo headpiece with the symbol of fire etched onto it. He was also holding a costly hand fan which he uses to fan himself. "It's been a long time, Daimyo-sama," Hiruzen said, extending a hand. "Indeed, it is Hokage-sama," Daimyo replied and took the offered hand and shook the Hokage's hand. "Shall we proceed to your stay?" Hiruzen offered. "Yes," the daimyo replied, and then they started their walk towards the hotel along with the samurai and the guardian ninjas who are now following the daimyo from the rooftops, and the group fell into a comfortable silence. The daimyo was the first to break the silence and said, "Oh, and Hokage-sama. While I settle down at my stay here, I would like you to arrange a meeting with only the Shinobi Council within the next hour and tell me." That request made Hiruzen to get a little surprised, but he didn't let it show on his face and he replied, "It will be done, Daimyo-sama." After dropping the Fire Daimyo at his hotel, Hiruzen summoned all Shinobi clan heads for the meeting. Hayashi, Tsume, Shibi, Shikaku, Choza and Inoichi were among them, and Tsunade also attended, as she is now the Senju clan head. Everyone noted the absence of the village elders, and almost all of them knew why they were summoned, because word travels fast and it's been already 5 days since the Senju clan called justice for Tsukumo Hatake. Murmurs started among the clan heads, like why only now, why not earlier? What does the daimyo has to say now? Will Tsukumo finally get the respect he deserves? I know you all need answers, but let's wait patiently for the daimyo to arrive. Hiruzen said out loud, causing the murmurs to stop. As if on K, the daimyo arrived inside the council chamber with all 12 of his guardian ninjas. He took the seat reserved for him beside the Hokage, and his guardian ninjas took all sides of the room to ensure the safety of the daimyo. Daimyo-sama, now that you're here, let us discuss whether you intend to agree or not to the conditions set by the Senju clan head demanding the proper respect for Tsukumo Hatake, the White Fang of the Leaf, with their clan's allegiance to the Leaf Village being at stake. Hiruzen asked respectfully, referring to Tsunade's message to the daimyo. I'm not here to say whether I agree to Senju clan's condition or not. Daimyo started saying while fanning himself, which made Tsunade to get furious, but before she can lash out, he continued again, I'm here to discuss why I was not informed all those years back that Tsukumo Hatake was wronged. Why was this hidden from me? That one statement left the entire council chamber, apart from the daimyo and his 12 guardian ninjas, to be shocked to their core. What are you saying, daimyo-sama? I wrote a personal letter to you when Tsukumo was denied the proper respect after his death. I plead to you in that letter that during the wartime civilian council had the funds that the village needed, and they denied the proper respect for him as they considered him the cause for major losses of the Leaf Village, and they said they would cancel funding needed for the war if we give him a place in the memorial stone. I plead to you in that letter to lend some help from the capital city, so we can cancel the civilian council, as we would no longer need their funds to win the war, and we will be able to give proper respect for each and every shinobi who fell in battle. This time it was the daimyo who got wide-eyed, and he said, Hokage-sama. In the letter I received from you, you said that you have all the funds needed to win the war and don't need any additional funding from the capital. The room was filled with murmurs again, and Tsunade started suspecting that someone must have been intercepting the messages between Hokage and the daimyo. Hiruzen couldn't believe it. If the daimyo was to be believed, then someone intercepted the messages between him and the daimyo didn't even know about Tsukumo until now. With all due respect, can I see the message that was delivered to you, daimyo-sama? Tsunade asked, to which the daimyo nodded, and Asuma approached Tsunade and handed her a very worn and old-looking scroll that has the Hokage seal on it. Tsunade unfurled the scroll and started reading through the contents of the scroll. After a few moments she closed it and said, it seems that daimyo-sama is indeed saying the truth. This scroll says that the Leaf Village has enough funds to carry out war for 5 more years and does not need any additional funding. There is no mention of Tsukumo Hatake anywhere in this scroll. And also, this is not Hokage-sama's handwriting. No offense for suspecting that you could be lying, daimyo-sama. She then handed the scroll to her sensei. None taken. Daimyo replied, fanning himself. When Hiruzen started inspecting the scroll, he found out that even though the handwriting is not his, the Hokage seal was genuine, which means someone within the higher ranks of the village had intercepted the message sent by him to the daimyo. He had a suspicion who might have done it. Sorry for this mistake, daimyo-sama. I think our messages were being intercepted. Aged Hokage said with a regretful sigh, thinking that for all these years Tsukumo could have gotten the respect he deserved. It doesn't matter anyway. Now, will the White Fang of the Leaf, Tsukumo Hatake, be given the proper respect he deserves and be treated as a hero he is, or should the Senju family start packing their bags and leave the Leaf Village forever? Tsunade asked. He will absolutely be given the respect he deserves, and if the Leaf Village denies him that respect this time too, then Fire Nation will withdraw all of its funding to the Leaf Village, and I will then erect a monument myself in respect for Tsukumo Hatake in the capital city to honor his great deeds. Daimyo made his point clear by giving an underlined threat. I don't think it will come to that, daimyo-sama. We can finally show the respect to our own fallen comrade, without the fear of lack of funding from Leaf's civilian council. Shikaka Nara asked, trying to find out if the daimyo will help or not if the civilian council decides to pull back their funding to the village. Daimyo caught on to what Shikaku is trying to ask and laughed, Nara clan members are geniuses indeed. No need of worrying about the funding, as long as the Leaf Village walks on the path set by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, funding will be given from the Fire Nation capital whenever it is needed. Then it is settled. We will give the proper respect for Tsukumo Hatake's final resting place, and etch his name on Leaf Village's memorial stone and erect a monument in his honor in the training ground 44 to show our acknowledgement for all the great deeds he did for the village. Hiruzen said, feeling genuinely happy, and the entire council chamber was filled with joy at the long-awaited acknowledgement being given to their fallen comrade, a spiky silver-haired Anbu hidden in one of the corners of the room, who was stationed there for the security of the Hokage, let some happy tears to fall from his eyes, and he was thankful to his Anbu mask, cause his image would be damaged if someone saw him crying. Father, your will of fire is finally being acknowledged. Thank you Tsunade-sama, thank you Shizune-san, and thank you Naruto-kun. He said lowly, which Tsunade heard even among all the cheers in the room, and she nodded in his direction letting him know that she heard him, which made him smile genuinely behind his mask after so many years. That night. Unknown underground base. Danzo was sitting in his darkly lit throne room in the underground root base, thinking about all the heroic respect that Tsukumo Hatake will receive from now on. If he gets this much heroic and historic respect by the daimyo himself, then each and every Leaf Shinobi will start walking in his footsteps and thrive to protect their comrades instead of trying to complete the missions, which will be the downfall of the Leaf Village. All that careful message interceptions all those years back have all gone to waste. Now, how to manipulate things to be in the Leaf Village's favor were the thoughts running rampant in the mind of the war hawk Danzo. Soon another person came inside the room, which made Danzo to get shocked, but he hid it very well and asked, "How did you know about this place? I know each and every root base you have. In fact, I can kill you where you stand right now for what you did." The other person said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Danzo said, trying to act innocent. "Even though I knew you are essentially an evil person, I've let you run free with your Root Anbu division only because I thought you were a necessary evil needed for the safety of the village." Then the person came into light, revealing that it was Hiruzen Sarutobi, the third Hokage. He then continued again, "But if you ever go behind my back again, then I will fertilize the Leaf Village with your body parts, and then I will merge all your root agents into the regular shinobi forces once your seal on them gets destroyed as soon as you die." He made his point clear. Danzo can tell that it was not an empty threat. He knew that Hiruzen can actually kill him where he stood right here and right now. A few tense moments later Danzo finally replied, "Fine." Without even saying a word, Hiruzen disappeared back into the shadows, leaving Danzo to rethink his strategy about how he can get away without coming under the radar of Hiruzen for what he planned for the Uchiha clan. "I will not live much longer," said an elderly-looking person with deep voice who had horns protruding from his forehead, and he was dressed in a high-collared full-length pure white kimono with a pattern of 6 black magatama around the collar. On the back of his kimono there was a larger, black rinnegan marking with a pattern of 9 magatama arranged in 3 rows of 3 beneath it. Shikaku, Matatabi, Isabu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Chomei, Gyuki and Karama. The person continued addressing the baby-tailed beasts around him, which were listening carefully what he has to say to them. "Even if you are far apart, you will always be together. Eventually the day will come when you will be united again. Each of you with a unique name and a different form than before. And unlike when you were inside of me, you will be guided down the right path. I hope you learn what true strength is." The person then took a small pause to turn his face slightly backwards to look over his shoulder so that only the lower features of his face could be seen. "Before that time comes." The person finished his sentence, making a certain tailed beast to have tears in his eyes. 9 tails. "This transient form is nothing more than a nodule," said a person to a mighty tailed beast that stood towering over him by a huge margin. He had waist-length spiky hair with shoulder-length bangs framing the sides of his face, covering most of his right eye. He wore a crimson armor with numerous metal plates, forming protective guards along his chest, waist, shoulders and thighs. He was carrying a brown gunbai on his back. "You're only a piece of yourself. Appearance of your true power," the person said again. "Quiet." The beast growled. "You are merely an ignorant and unstable power." The person taunted again. "Shut up." The beast said again with more anger bubbling inside. The ones who shall guide you are the Uchiha. You tailed beasts are simply servants of those with visual prowess. The person kept on insulting. Shut the hell up. The beast roared in rage. Now obey me. Nine Tails. Your power is too great and too destructive. I'm sorry, I can't let you run around loose, said a person with waist-length black hair, typically styled in a center-parted fringe that framed his face. He was wearing a dark red armor which was constructed from numerous metal plates, formed into multiple protective guards along his body. Each collar of his shoulder guards bore the Senju symbol. He had some battle wounds on his face, and some blood was dripping from the left side of his mouth and left side of his cheek, like he just fought the battle of his life. Whenever you exercise your power, you always draw hatred to you. Please just stay quiet inside me, said a woman with bright red hair and large, pupil-less eyes. She was wearing an elaborate, high-collared kimono, and her hair was arranged in buns with hairpins in them and 3 clips in the front. She also wore a dark shade of red lipstick and had a marking reminiscent of the strength of 100 seal on her forehead. She also wore tags with kanji written on them in her hair decals. This is an unfortunate situation for the both of us. So, please listen. You're here to keep the world in check. But I'm here to keep watch over you, said a woman who had long, straight and red-colored hair with shoulder-length strands that framed both sides of her face and a black clip that parts her hair to the left. Deep within the darkness behind the 8 huge cage bars of the 8 trigram seal, 2 large eyes opened up, casting an ominous glow within the darkness of the cell. The eyes were red in color with vertically slit pupils. You were always wrong, father. The beast muttered to himself, referring to his creator when he realized that he just woke up now after getting sealed again from 9 long years of slumber full of nightmares about all the wrongful things done to him in the past. You were always wrong for asking us to help the humans in need. The beast took a pause to release a sigh and to lay down his head on his front legs and continued again. Madara, Hashirama, Mito and Kushina. Doesn't matter whether they are good or bad, humans are all the same. Then the beast just closed his eyes again and continued to mutter his thoughts out loud. Though they have no true strength of their own, they force their ideals on us and restrain us. For now, I will just have to wait a few more minutes for my jailer to appear here. If I am not wrong, he must be 9 years old now. Then the beast had a short but terrifying laugh. I can't wait to tear him to shreds when he comes close. Then the beast went silent again and kept on waiting for the long-awaited meeting with his jailer. Outside the 8 trigrams seal Senju residence. It had been a year since the Senju clan fought for the respect of Tsukumo Hatake. Since then, the tower located exactly at the center of Training Ground 44 had been named Hatake Tower, and a large statue of Tsukumo Hatake had been erected in the stadium within the tower where Chunin exam finals always take place. The name Tsukumo Hatake, the white fang of the Leaf Village, had been proudly etched onto the Leaf's memorial stone, and Tsukumo Hatake's final resting place had been given a proper gravestone, so that the people who may come to pay their respects to him can find his final resting place easily. Also, since then all the shinobi who have lost their lives in this 1 year have been given a final resting place near him. Senju clan received huge respect from shinobi population, but the entire civilian council started hating them for making them lose the edge they had on the Hokage and the shinobi council. Even if they don't outright say any hateful words to them, they still held hatred towards Senju family inside of them. The surprising thing is that the civilian population seemed to be not affected even after word had spread out that the Hokage will no longer listen to the demands of civilian council. Most civilian population already didn't like Naruto at all because of the incident that happened 9 years ago, but they never said anything hateful to Naruto as they know who his father is. It just seemed that this new development with civilian council has neither increased nor decreased the hate in civilian population, but it remained the same as before. Naruto, his mother and sister were curious to know why there was no outrage in civilian population after the civilian council had lost most of its power within the village, but they never found the reason. Today is Naruto's 9th birthday, and his mother and sister were preparing for the small celebration which will take place in the evening. Naruto has already invited his friends in class and asked them to come along with their parents too. Tsunade had also invited the family of Tazuna a few days back, but she did not get any reply from them. She thought maybe they were just busy. While his mother and sister were waiting for him to wake up, the blonde was still asleep. A few minutes later, the blonde boy slowly woke up to the sound of water dripping. Yawn well. Today is the day, muttered Naruto, referring to his 9th birthday with a yawn while rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. But as soon as his vision focused, he was confused as to why he was in a darkly lit underground complex, with 2 pipes running along the ceiling and various hallways. The floor was flooded with a shallow layer of water, which is only 1 inch in depth. One of the 2 pipes on the ceiling was red in color, and it was the largest of the 2. The other pipe on ceiling was blue in color, and it was almost 1/3 the size of the red one. Ah! Where am I? Naruto asked no one in particular. He was still dressed in his pajamas that he wore to sleep. Soon the blonde boy heard some noise that sounded like it was the breath of someone or something. So, he followed the sound through the complex, and soon he was greeted with the sight of a huge cage with double doors. The cage doors have 8 huge metal bars that went through the darkness above, and it looked like they don't have an end. Both doors of the cage were closed shut with a sheet of parchment in the middle securing them. The parchment had the kanji for seal written on it. Naruto can't see what was there on the other side of the cage, as there is too much darkness on that side of the cage. But soon the darkness was obliterated by the glow casted upon by 2 large red eyes with vertically slit pupils. Then the eyes seemingly started raising above the ground, like whoever was on the other side of the cage is standing up. Finally, I get to meet my jailer after all this time. Whoever was on the other side of the cage said and spit the word jailer, like it was some sort of a poison. Naruto got curious to find out who it was and approached a safe distance from the seal and saw what was on the other side of the cage. Standing there towering over the blonde boy by a large margin was the mighty 9 Tails, a tailed beast that is said to have caused tsunamis and earthquakes with just a small flick of one of its tails. 9 Tails? Naruto asked just to make sure. So, you know me? Asked 9 Tails, not really expecting an answer. Yes. You're the friend that my father and mother left behind for me, Naruto said, feeling excited to meet the 9 Tails. Whatever the 9 Tails was expecting, that response from the boy was not in any of his expectations. But still he didn't let it show outside and questioned, "You do know that I killed your parents, don't you?" Naruto's eyes narrowed a bit, but he replied anyway, "Yes, I know. And I also know that your actual intention was to kill me, but they got in your way." 9 Tails just raised his massive eyebrow and asked, "That may be the truth. But still, I killed your parents and I intended to kill you too. So why do you want to consider someone who killed your parents as a friend?" My mom taught me that hanging on to hatred and rage will ruin everything I have. She taught me to move forward and to accept who I am and who you are, Naruto said, referring to himself and the 9 Tails. Then he continued again, "Also, anyone who was put in a situation where they will be forced into imprisonment for the crimes that they haven't really committed would most likely try to do the same thing that you did." The 9 Tails seemed a little surprised about this kid's odd personality and asked, "How can you be so sure that I haven't committed the crimes that I am being imprisoned for?" Naruto spread his hands wide and bowed a little like he was introducing himself, "I am a sensory type." He then stood back up and faced the 9 Tails again and continued, "I can sense if someone is saying the truth or not, and I can also sense what they are feeling. From the very first moment I saw you, I felt only anger from you. Innocents who were wronged feel anger, whereas someone who did something wrong and is imprisoned for life will feel hatred and rage. So, you feeling only anger is a good sign that you truly believe that you're an innocent. A person can fool many others, but no matter what they can never fool themselves, and they can't hide who they really are from themselves." He paused and looked straight into eyes of the 9 Tails and asked, "Am I wrong?" The 9 Tails was taken back by that accurate explanation from someone so young, but then he shook his head slightly and remembered that he intended to tear this child apart when he met him and said, "So, you consider me your friend?" "Yes," Naruto replied. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, comment down below and let me know. Also share this video with your friends. I have created a playlist of this what if where you guys can find all the parts. See you in the next video.